Good afternoon. Today I'm not reviewing anything. I promise I have some more reviews coming. Bowers & Wilkins. I am looking at a deckware, and I also have, a few surprises coming your way. But today I want to talk about some of the music that I'm using that I enjoy listening to test my system. Sufjan Stevens. You may have heard of him. I actually love all of his stuff. He has an album called Illinois that's amazing. Check out John Wayne Gacy Jr. It is a ridiculously good and sad song. But this is Sufjan Stevens' album, The Ascension. There's one song on here, many songs on here that I would be excited about listening to test my system. America is pretty phenomenal. Video Game is great, but the one that I love the most to listen to is Tell Me You Love Me. This song tests my dynamics. This song tests what my system sounds like when it's loud, tests my system when it's quiet. It tests my system to see where my soundstage is. And yes, I know. There are my speakers. But when I put these things 9.5 feet apart on solid steel stands, you can tell exactly where the instruments are in the recording. And that song, Tell Me That You Love Me, or Tell Me You Love Me, will tell you if you have a system that's worth listening to. This one, you're all gonna make fun of me. This is Taylor Swift's album, Folklore. There's a lot of stuff that I like on this album. I actually think it's a fantastic singer-songwriter album, but there's one song specifically that I like listening to the most, and it's the song Hoax. Now the piano in this it's delicate. It has great female vocals. There is a small amount of delicate bass in it, but that's the song that when I have it playing on my system here, if we have guests over at our house, they come into this room where the speakers are and they're like, what? It sounds like the piano's playing. Like you have an actual baby grand piano playing in your room right now. So honestly, that's probably one of the tests I use the most. Do people think there's actually a piano in the room when they're not in the room? Do people think there's a guitar? Do people think there's actually somebody singing live? With Hoax, I've had it happen quite a few times where if people didn't know better, they would think that Taylor Swift was singing in my room right underneath my TV. Test My Bass. This is an album by James Blake. I can't really read what it says, but the song on here that I really like, and you can't read it because it's just a crappy cardboard, but it's called I'm So Blessed You're Mine. This song, it's about 3.5 minutes. It is a test of everything that your bass is going to be able to do in your system. If you play this loud on a system that isn't up to snuff, now my Polk L100, the Legends L100, could not play this song without distortion. There is some bass notes towards the end, around the 2 minute and 30 to 3 minute section, that if your system is able to handle all the bass, it will be able to play those cleanly without distortion. That song's actually why I moved from the Polk Legend L100s to these CSS Crichtons. These Crichtons can play it with my subwoofer, no problem. But the Polk Legends, they distort it real easily. My favorite singer-songwriter album to test whether something sounds good is this album by Townes Van Zandt. If you have not heard this live at the Old Quarter, this is a treat. This is what got me into Townes. And it is the first side, this whole part. The whole album's great, hear me. But when you listen to Poncho and Lefty, you will hear utter silence in a live recording and only hear what's in the room. That was played in Houston in the early 70s. The vocals are remarkable. They are clear, at least they should be clear. But if you do not have a quiet system, you're not going to be able to hear the room. You're going to hear some graininess, and that's your system. That's not the recording. This is a live album, especially on Poncho and Lefty, that is incredibly quiet. There is no graininess in the recording when you have a good system. I didn't know what I was missing until I used these speakers and the Polk Legends. They're good for this album as well. As well, on the cheaper side of things, the Wharfdale Diamond 225 was the first time I fully began to be able to appreciate this album. Next, I'm a Radiohead fan. A lot of people who listen to vinyl are. This is actually Tom York and Johnny Greenwood's latest work. It's by their band called The Smile, A Light for Attracting Attention. This is one of my favorite songs right now for listening to bass. There is a song towards the end of the album, number 12, We Don't Know What Tomorrow Brings. And if your system is able to bring texture to the bass and not sound like a whale moaning in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you're going to hear that texture on this song, We Don't Know What Tomorrow Brings. Throughout, there is this like vibrato bass that comes through in your speakers that requires your speakers to be quick and dynamic. It requires, you just have to listen to it. If you can have good bass and good textured bass, and you want to know if your system can do it, listen to We Don't Know What Tomorrow Brings. It's a great album. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion, but maybe I have a twisted sense of fun. And I enjoy it quite a bit. I actually think it's one of my favorite albums that's been released by Radiohead, or at least by band members in Radiohead in the last 15 years. So, that's basic, but that's what I got for you right now. But honestly, again, you get back to the point. If you're loving your music, keep listening. Don't worry about it. If you can't listen to the lowest notes, guess what?